My family owns a property up in Vermont that we use during the winter for skiing and snowboarding. It sits at the top of a hill surrounded by woods, and the nearest neighbors are up the road, but far enough away that you can't see their houses from our property. There's a large shed out back where we store most of our snowboarding gear along with general outdoor stuff like shovels, rakes, and everything else. We keep it locked whenever we're not up there, but once we arrive and unlock it, we leave it open for the whole visit, since we don't really worry about anyone coming around to steal anything while we're there. The house itself is a decent size, technically 3 floors with the third being a loft master bedroom, reserved strictly for my parents. My siblings and I aren't allowed up there. One particular weekend, I headed up there with a girl named Melissa. I was going to teach her how to snowboard, since she had never been before. We had a beginner board at the property that she could use along with all the right gear. Since the house sits on a steep hill, we had actually built our own little custom slope on the property that we'd use for snowboarding and sledding for fun. Before taking her to the actual mountain, I figured I'd use that hill to teach her the basics first. We geared up and I started making my way slowly down from the top of the hill, showing her the fundamental movements. Her first attempt ended exactly how you'd expect, with a fall, but she was persistent and kept getting back up every time. Each run to the bottom she got a little bit better, and we'd walk back up and go again. At some point during one of those runs, we both heard a male voice call out from the woods, seemingly directed at us. It said hello. We stopped and looked around, completely confused. All we could see were trees and a blanket of white snow covering the forest floor. You'd think it would be easier to spot someone against all that white, but we couldn't make out anyone. I called out asking if someone was there. Nothing. Just the dead silence of a remote place in the middle of winter. Melissa and I were a little rattled, so we walked back up to the house and went inside. I didn't think it was likely to be the neighbors since I hadn't noticed the driveway of the closest one shoveled, and the neighbors further up the hill would have no real reason to come down our way. I told Melissa it was probably just a random hiker passing through the woods. That was the least unsettling explanation I could come up with. After that we headed out to my favorite diner nearby, then stopped to pick up some groceries to get us through the next few days. Since it was getting late by then, we planned to spend the rest of the evening relaxing at the house. We ate dinner and then settled in by the fire pit out back. At some point we both clearly heard the sound of footsteps crunching through snow not far from where we were sitting. I switched off the music, but with the fire crackling it wasn't completely silent. Whatever we had heard had gone quiet. I asked Melissa for her phone so I could use both flashlights at once and point them toward the tree line, same as we had done earlier on the hill. I called out asking if someone was there, which scared Melissa enough that she asked to go inside. We did, and we stayed in for the rest of the night. The next morning I woke up to Melissa getting out of bed. I was still tired, so I drifted back off, and when I woke up again she still wasn't back. I checked the time, and it was already around 9 in the morning, so I got up and pulled back the curtain on the window. Looking outside, I noticed the shed door was open, and I could see breath being exhaled from behind the door, the kind of visible puff you get in cold air. I figured Melissa must have gone out there for something. I opened the window and called her name, but her voice came back from inside the house, from the living room. My whole body went cold with goosebumps. I kept my eyes fixed on that breath escaping from behind the shed door, and shouted out asking who was in my shed. A few seconds passed, and then I shut the window and rushed out to the living room to find Melissa, who had been watching TV, but was now standing in front of the couch looking alarmed. I looked out the back door, just in time to see the back of someone dressed in black sprinting into the tree line. I scrambled to find my boots, but by the time I got them on there was no point in chasing anyone. I went out to check the shed, and as far as I could tell nothing had been taken. I relocked it just to be safe. I could see the footprints clearly in the snow, leading from the woods to the shed, and then back into the woods again. I was not about to follow them. Once we both settled down a bit we had breakfast, and then headed to the mountain for a full day of snowboarding. Melissa picked it up surprisingly well, and we were already planning to get another full day tomorrow. After getting back to the house we cooked steaks and watched a movie. Neither of us had any interest in sitting outside in the dark after everything that had happened the night before, and that morning, in the middle of that night, I was woken up by Melissa shaking me. She told me to listen. We sat there in complete silence for about 30 seconds, and then we heard it. A drawn-out, slow voice from somewhere outside saying, "Help me." Melissa started panicking immediately. Then we heard it again. I got up and moved to the window. She begged me not to open the curtain. I told her I was just going to take a small peek and gently lifted one corner of it. I cracked the window open, and a rush of freezing air hit me in the face. I stood there listening, trying to get a better sense of where the voice was coming from. Then I heard footsteps in the snow, and they were getting significantly louder and closer very fast. They were coming straight toward the window. I yanked it shut and locked it. Whoever was out there had already seen me, though, because a knock on the glass confirmed it. I looked over at Melissa, who had pulled the blanket completely over herself and was making quiet, muffled crying sounds. I told her to stay as quiet as possible. Our best move was to give no response and pretend no one was home. There were no more knocks on the window after that, and no more voices from outside. The next couple of hours were brutal, just lying there wide awake and waiting. Eventually exhaustion won, and we both drifted off. First thing the next morning, I walked the perimeter of the house and found footprints literally surrounding it on all sides. Someone, or possibly more than one person, had been circling the house and moving from window to window. That was enough for both of us. We decided to pack up and leave early. I locked everything back up in the shed, reloaded the car, and headed back to Rhode Island. For anyone wondering, the next time members of my family went back up there, nothing had been broken into and nothing was missing. So honestly, I have no real idea what that person was after. But it was without a doubt the same individual who had been watching us from the moment we arrived, and there's a real possibility it was more than one person. When you're isolated somewhere like that, and it slowly dawns on you that you are not alone, there is honestly nothing more terrifying.